Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the Senate considered and passed the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2022, with amendments on Tuesday, the 1st of August 2023, and referred it to the National Assembly for consideration in accordance with the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution. And whereas, upon consideration, the National Assembly rejected the bill at second reading on Tuesday, the 12th of March 2024, thereby committing the same to mediation committee pursuant to the provisions of Article 112, 1A of the Constitution. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 112 of the Constitution and Standing Order 149 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate and seek the appointment of senators to the Mediation Committee on the bill. Honorable Senators, consequent to the said decision, the Speaker of the National Assembly appointed the following members of the National Assembly to Mediation Committee to consider the bill in accordance with Article 113 of the Constitution. These are the Honorable David Gikaria, MP, the Honorable Charles Kamuren, MP, the Honorable Beatrice Kemei, MP, the Honorable Joseph Emathe, MP, the Honorable T.J. Kajwang, MP, the Honorable Irene Kasalu, MP, and the Honorable Dick Maungu, MP. Honorable Senators, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 166-2 of the Senate Standing Orders, and in consultation with the majority and minority leaders, I will, at the appropriate time, appoint senators to the Mediation Committee. I thank you. Well, unless it's in intervention seeking a clarification, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, rather than a point of order, actually, is to seek your direction on a matter that, if not arrested, will soon lead us into a stalemate between us and the colleagues in the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, occasionally, when I'm not in the chamber, I do follow proceedings of what happens in the Assembly, especially when they are debating bills that have emanated from the Senate. If I'm not wrong, Mr. Speaker, this is the second bill in this session that the Assembly has negated at the second reading stage. Mr. Speaker, and I have said this even to our colleagues on the minority side many times, that unless a bill is fatally flawed ab initio, it is an abuse of legislative procedure to negate any bill at second reading. Mr. Speaker, because I have seen bills that come to this House, and while the context and the overall body of what that bill seeks to do may not be what members intend, but because of our very rigorous procedures of lawmaking, Mr. Speaker, including second reading and eventually in the Committee of the Whole, you clean it up and conform it to provisions of the Constitution. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, given that this is the second bill where the House has considered, and particularly this bill, Mr. Speaker, there is a history to this bill. This bill has been in the corridors of Parliament for over 10 years, Mr. Speaker. We have considered it severally. In fact, I have lost count of the number of times that Senate has sent this bill to the National Assembly, and it has been returned, Mr. Speaker. In fact, much as there is progress to report, because previously it used to be left to gather dust in the shelves of the Assembly. This time they went all the way to second reading. Perhaps you need to establish procedure, Mr. Speaker, between you and your colleague, the Speaker of the National Assembly, on how to consider our bills. Because, Mr. Speaker, we receive many bills from the Assembly side as well. And there are many things which, for one reason or the other, we hold a different view on how they perceive it. But I find it to be a smack in the face of a smack on the face of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, when you negate a bill at second reading and call for mediation. It's an abuse of legislative mandate, and as leaders in this House, Mr. Speaker, I'd wish, because in a bicameral relation, our main link between us and the Assembly is you, Mr. Speaker, that you register our displeasure with the leadership of the Assembly through their Speaker on how they are treating our bills, Mr. Speaker. It is my considered view that a bill should be considered to the final stage. Then we can have a proper mediation, Mr. Speaker, of how they hold different views on certain provisions. But to conclude on it at second reading, Mr. Speaker, is not fair to this House. And it's a matter for which I'm inviting you to have a conversation with your counterpart, the Speaker of the lower house. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Indeed, your concerns are valid, and I'll take it up with my counterpart in the National Assembly. However, if you listen to my earlier communication on co-sponsorship, co-sponsorship is one of the ways that we can employ to avoid scenarios such as this. Because one, in as much as the bill is considered extremely important by the Senate, the National Assembly may not necessarily feel the spirit behind that bill. But if it's developed with certain co-sponsors in the National Assembly, those naturally becomes our ambassadors, and they can make a case for and on behalf of the Senate, because then they will feel the spirit behind this bill. Otherwise, I will take it up, and we want to hope that this may be the last bill to collapse at the second reading in the National Assembly. Next order, Clerk.
Order number 4, petitions.
The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget.
Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a petition regarding regulation of credit profession that was submitted by CCP Mokaya Magembi Bernard. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is the right of every Kenyan citizen to petition public authorities and Parliament as conferred in the Constitution under Article 37 and Article 119. Further to the petition to Parliament, Procedure Act number 22 of 2012 makes provision for the procedure for the exercise of the right to petition and defines the format of the petition to be addressed to Parliament. Pursuant to Standing Orders 232(1)A and 236(2)B of the Senate Standing Orders, on the 23rd of May 2023, a public petition concerning regulation of credit profession was presented to the Senate. The petition has been submitted to the Office of the Clerk by members of the Council of Institute of Credit Management Kenya, led by CCP Mokaya Magembe Bernard, who is chairman. Mr. Speaker, sir, the petitioners prayed that the Senate enacts legislation to regulate the credit profession. The committee considered this petition with a view to determining whether the matters raised therein merit intervention by legislature. During its inquiry and engagement with petitioners and relevant stakeholders such as the Central Bank of Kenya, the committee found that credit professionals are increasingly playing a vital role in the economy, especially in the sectors dominated by financial institutions. Mr. Speaker, the credit professionals primarily undertake credit management, including determination of the credit worthiness of customers, managing relationships between the lender and a customer, mitigating against financial loss by assessing the credit risk of financial institutions, and developing credit policies for financial institutions. Mr. Speaker, proper credit management influences financial inclusion, encourages ecosystem within which access to credit is improved. However, it is immediately apparent that whereas the primary role of credit management is to maximize profit, this cannot be achieved at the expense of the well-being of borrowers. In the quest for ensuring profitability, some lenders have shown over the years evidence to resort to unscrupulous methods, especially in the collection of debt and misinformation of lenders on the fine print of borrowing facilities. This has led to situations where borrowers have overcommitted themselves financially, Further, lenders have institutionalized harassment and other forms of abuse as part of the innovative techniques or methods of collecting debt. These predatory lending policies have, in some instances, had the opposite effect, where borrowers have been victims of exploitative collection practices, high rates of default due to non-disclosures within the conditions of lending that is not brought to the attention of the borrowers. Mr. Speaker, sir, at this crossroad of profit versus public interest stands the credit professionals whose main task is to ensure that credit management is underpinned by three main points, that is profitability, customer focus, and market stability. This means that a proper credit management system involves development of clear credit policies that sets out in clear terms credit limits, payment terms, interest rates, penalties, and late payments. Secondly, a regular customer monitoring and implementation of ethical collection pathways and clear and ambiguous communication is required. This infrastructure requires professionals whose training, qualifications, and contact is subject to regulatory law. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee therefore found merit and resolved to grant the petitioner's prayer for the enactment of the law to regulate credit professionals in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee will soon be presenting a bill to this House on the regulation of credit profession for consideration and passage. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I conclude, the committee appreciate the petitioners, members of the Council of Institute of Credit Management Kenya, who presented the petition through the clerk's office. The committee acknowledges the time and considerable effort made by the central bank, who submitted information concerning this petition. The committee is also particularly grateful to the Office of the Speaker and the Office of the Clerk of the Senate for support received during the discharge of this mandate. I submit.
Next order, clerk.
Order number 5, papers.
The Leader of Majority.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, the 19th of March, 2024. 1, the National Building Code, legal notice number 47 of 2024. The Fisheries Regulations, legal notice number 49 of 2024. 3, report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Busia County Trade Development Revolving Fund for the year ended 30th June 2022. Then reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the following for the year ended 30th June 2023. 1, County Executive of Migori, County Assembly of Migori, County Government of Migori, Receiver of Revenue, the County Government of Migori, County Revenue Fund, Migori County Alcoholic Drinks Control Fund, Municipality of Migori, Municipality of Rongo, the County Assembly of Kisii, Kisii County Assembly Members Loan and Mortgage, Kisii County Emergency Fund, Kisii County Veterinary Service Development Fund, Kisii County Loans and Mortgages Fund, Kisii County Health Facilities Improvement Fund, Demonstration Farm Fund Kisii, the County Executive of Homa Bay, Municipality of Homa Bay, Nakuru County Emergency Fund, Nakuru County Bursary Fund, Laikipia County Business Stimulus Fund, Laikipia County Leasing Fund, the County Executive of Bungoma, County Assembly of Bungoma, the Bungoma County Assembly Members Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme Fund, Bungoma County Pensions with Persons with Disabilities Empowerment Fund, Bungoma County Disaster Management Fund, and Management and Emergency Fund, the County Government of Bungoma, County Revenue Fund, County Executive of Busia, County Assembly of Busia, the Busia County Assembly Revolving Fund, County Government of Busia, Receiver of Revenue, Busia Alcoholic Drinks Control Fund, Busia County Trade Development Revolving Fund, Busia County Health Services Fund. I thank you.
Senator Ali Roba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the 2024 Medium-Term Debt Management Strategy, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 7th of March.
Senator Faki, you are supposed to lay a paper. You're doing this on behalf of Senator Ali Roba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 19th of March, 2024. Report on the inaugural high-level joint session of the Council of Governors, COG, and the Senate held from the 15th of June to the 18th of June, 2023 at Naivasha in Nakuru County. Thank you.
Senator Moses Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 19th of March, 2024. The county government's additional allocations cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2023-2024. Thank you.
Senator Moses Kajwang, or any member of that committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 19 March 2024. Report of the proceedings and resolution of the inaugural biannual devolution conference held from 15 to 19 August 2023 in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, on behalf of Senator Moses Kajwang. I beg to lay.
Next order, clerk.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
The Honorable Faki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to give notice on the following motion, that aware that Part 2 of the 4th schedule of the Constitution of Kenya obligates county governments with the responsibility to develop, establish, manage, and maintain sports and cultural facilities, which include stadia, sport arenas, cultural centers, and other related infrastructure. Noting that this entire coastal region of the country lacks a modern stadium built to international standards, thereby depriving the people of the benefits that come with stadia and sports facilities. Concerned that the construction of the Mombasa Municipal Stadium has encountered delays and setbacks since the inception of the project in 2019 due to financial constraints, which has since halted the construction, depriving the community of the much-needed facility. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves that the National Treasury and the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports allocate a conditional grant to the county government of Mombasa amounting to Kenya shillings 1.7 billion for the completion of the Mombasa Municipal Stadium. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order, clerk.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Statements pursuant to Standing Order 52-1, the Honorable Senator Okongo Mogeni. That statement is dropped. The Honorable Hezena Lemaletian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a statement on an issue of a general topical concern on efforts made to address the pressing issue of waste management through the development and implementation of a vibrant circular economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement on a matter of general topical concern, namely efforts to address the pressing issue of waste management through the development and implementation of a vibrant circular economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, Kenya generates over 8 million metric tons of waste annually, and this calls for adoption of innovative approaches to transform waste into valuable raw materials for industrial production in order to mitigate environmental degradation and promoting sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, sir, the benefits of a circular economy cannot be gainsaid, as it cuts on waste and reduces. Mr. Speaker, I beg. Mr. Speaker, I'm being distracted here by my two colleagues.
Order, Senator Haji and Senator Dulo. May the senator be heard in silence. No
Thank you, Mr.
funny
Speaker.
gestures. Allow the senator to make a statement. Proceed, Senator.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the benefits of a circular economy cannot be gainsaid, as it cuts on waste and reduces carbon emissions. Products are kept in use for as long as possible through sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, and recycling. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we embark on this transformative journey, it is crucial to ensure that these benefits are equitably distributed across all segments in the society. This can be achieved by conducting a thorough gender and general demographic analysis at each stage of the value chain involved in the transformation process. Further, disaggregating the data will also help in identifying and addressing any disparities, if any, in the accessibility of opportunities by both men and women during the process. Mr. Speaker, sir, in order to maximize the impact of our waste management efforts, it is essential to decentralize the circular economy and engage communities at the grassroots level, indicating participation by ward and benefits to be derived from the waste management process. Empowering communities to take ownership of waste management initiatives will also foster local economic development and environmental stewardship. In addition, it is also important to diversify the typologies of industrial production plants that will utilize the raw material generated from our waste management efforts. Incorporating a range of industries specialized in recycling, manufacturing, and renewable energy production. It will help in creating a more resilient and sustainable circular economy, which will in turn contribute to job creation and economic growth across various sectors. Mr. Speaker, sir, integrating waste collection, processing, and industrial production at the local level will minimize transportation costs and environmental impact while maximizing the utilization of resources and generating economic opportunities for local communities. This will call for the production plants to be strategically located in order to spur a circular economy within the country. In conclusion, I emphasize the critical importance of bottom-up approaches in spurring the circular economy, starting from the village or ward level and extending to the sub-county and county levels. Harnessing the collective efforts of communities and leveraging local resources will make us realize the vision of a sustainable and inclusive circular economy that aligns with our national development agenda and aspirations. I thank you.
Senator Lominan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Statement on the urgent need to improve water transportation in Lake Turkana to enhance trade and connectivity. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52.1 to make a statement on a matter of inter-county concern, namely the urgent need for improved water transportation in Lake Turkana to enhance trade and connectivity. Mr. Speaker, sir, I bring to your attention the pressing issue of challenging water transportation in Lake Turkana, which has significantly impeded trade between the Turkana community and other communities residing on the opposite side of the lake. Despite the vast potential for trade and economic exchange, the absence of proper water transportation vessels suitable for a large-scale transportation has hindered the realization of these opportunities. Mr. Speaker, sir, Lake Turkana, with its immense resources and strategic location, holds a great promise for facilitating trade and connectivity between various communities in the region. However, the lack of adequate water transportation infrastructure has posed several challenges, limiting the movement of goods, people, and services across the lake. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is disheartening to note that while other lakes in the region, such as Lake Victoria, boast large vessels like MV Nyeunge in the port of Nanalo, Tanzania, MV Victoria in Bukoba, Tanzania, MV Segerema at Mwanza, Tanzania, MV Kahawa in Port Bell, Uganda, MV Uhuru at Kisumu Docks in Kenya, and MV Pial in Uganda, enabling transportation of goods, trading, and fishing. Lake Turkana remains undeserved in terms of water transportation infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, sir, some of challenges arising from the lack of proper water transportation in Lake Turkana includes: 1. Limited access to markets. The absence of reliable transportation vessels hampers the ability of Turkana community to access markets located on opposite side of the lake, restricting their economic activities and their opportunities. Mr. Speaker, sir, I seek for protection from the senators who are seated behind
Senator
me.
Haji and Senator Hazana, you can make use of the lounge to extend your conversation.
Thank you, Mr.
Otherwise,
Speaker,
when you're
sir.
here, you have to allow the senator to read his statement in silence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. 2, isolation of communities residing along the shore of Lake Turkana face isolation and limited connectivity due to adequate transportation options, which affect social interaction and economic development. 3, hindered economic growth. The inability to transport goods efficiently across the lake stifles economic growth and development opportunities for Turkana community and other communities in the region, limiting their potential for prosperity. 4, safety concerns. The use of market shift and inadequate watercraft for transportation poses significant safety risks to passengers and goods, especially during adverse weather conditions. Mr. Speaker, sir, in light of this challenge, I urge the Senate to prioritize the development of robust water transportation infrastructure in Lake Turkana. This includes the acquisition of suitable vessels capable of facilitating large-scale transportation of goods and passengers, similar to those operating in other lakes in the region. Mr. Speaker, sir, by investing in improved water transportation, we can unlock the economic potential of Lake Turkana, promote trade and connectivity between the communities, and foster socio-economic development in the region. It is essential that we work collaboratively with relevant stakeholders to address the critical issues and ensure equitable access to transportation services for all residents of Turkana County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Now, statements pursuant to Standing Order 53-1. The Honorable Chirange.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the indulgence request for statement on the distribution of subsidized fertilizer to farmers in North Rift and other parts of the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries Committee regarding the distribution of subsidized fertilizer to farmers across the country. In the statement, the committee should, provide a comprehensive report on the quantity of fertilizer bags currently in stock at the National Cereals and Produce Board, elucidating the Ministry of Agriculture's readiness to meet fertilizer demand, considering that the North Rift is currently in the planting season. So, Speaker, sir, number 2, state the reasons for the ongoing delays in the distribution of fertilizers, subsidized fertilizer to the farmers by the National Cereals and Produce Board, explaining whether the delays are a result of a shortage of fertilizer and whether the said shortage has been communicated to the farmers and public. Mr. Speaker, sir, number 3, disclose whether the Ministry of Agriculture has adopted any alternative measures for increasing accessibility of subsidized fertilizer to the farmers, such as issuing vouchers to farmers, e-messages, e-vouchers, enabling them to redeem and obtain fertilizer from private vendors at 2,500 to facilitate them to plant timely, because there have been allegations of being sold at 3,950. So, Speaker, sir, finally, number 4, elaborate on the actions taken by the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries to address allegations of corruption and malpractices, including the instances of individuals and staff of NCPB and other agencies facilitating the issuance of subsidized fertilizer to unqualified persons who are not registered as farmers among the 4 million farmers that has been registered in the country, Mr. Speaker, through fraudulent means, such as inflating farm acreage or registering non-existent farms and farmers. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Lominan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I raise statement on land acquisition process occasioned by the LAPSET project in Turkana County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on land acquisition process occasioned by Lamu Port South Sudan Ethiopia Transport LAPSET corridor project in Turkana County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state whether there was a formal engagement between the National Land Commission and the Turkana County government to discuss the land acquisition process, ensuring transparency and consideration of the community's interest, tabling evidence of the same. 2, disclose whether any assessment have been conducted to evaluate the potential impacts of the LAPSET project on livelihood of the Turkana community, stating the finding and mitigation measures proposed to address the adverse impacts. 3, outline measures the National Land Commission will implement to safeguard the land tenure security of the communities in affected areas in Turkana South, Kapese, Loperod, and Turkana East, Kochadin, Lopii, Elelia, Lotubai, Kangitit, and Ngelukia, preventing exploitation and land grabbing in light of the compulsory acquisition published in Kenya Gazette Notice number 4388. 4, state the legal framework and policies in use to ensure fair and equitable compensation for the community's loss of ancestral land, considering the unregistered status of Turkana's communal land. And 5, disclose the benefits that will accrue to Turkana community from the LAPSET project, stating how these benefits will be fairly distributed and how the project plan to incorporate local needs and priorities into this implementation. Mr. Speaker, I have the second.
Proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is on the operationalization of the rural electrification and renewable energy corporation projects in Turkana County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Energy on operationalization of rural electrification and renewable energy corporation, REREC, projects in Turkana County. In this statement, the committee should, 1, list villages in REREC projects are located and provide an update on their status of operationalization. 2, state reason for the delay in operationalization of REREC projects in Turkana County, specifically those commissioned in 2019 in areas including Kangakepur in Turkana South, Lopedru in Turkana East, Kadopa, Napeikar in Loima, Loturere, Lolupe, and Nayu in Turkana Central, Turkana West, Kaeris in Turkana North, including the specific challenges facing and revised actionable timetable for their completion. 3, state steps the Ministry of Energy is taking to expedite the design, supply, installation, and commissioning of solar photovoltaic generation plants with associated power distribution network, mini-grids, in Turkana County, with particular focus on Kalakol, Namukuse in Turkana Central, Lochang Kamatak and Apusmoru in Turkana South, Lorengipi in Loima, Lomunyana Kwan in Turkana East, Kaikor, Kanakurdio, Kibich, Kokro, Oropoi, and Nachukui in Turkana North, and Oropoi in Turkana West, giving timelines and strategies being considered by Ministry to ensure that the electrification efforts in Turkana County also include the installation of floodlights in strategic centers and towards towns, as well as stand-alone solar PV systems for schools and health facilities to address broader socio-economic development goals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A statement by Senator Kathuri Murungi is deferred pursuant to his own request. We move to Senator for Bungoma, David Wakoli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the outcome of the assessment by the African Population and Health Research Center on the policy and institutional constraints to the availability and supply of medical oxygen in Kenya. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the scope of the research conducted by the African Population and Health Research Center on policy and institutional constraints on the availability and supply of medical oxygen in hospitals countrywide, with a focus on the methodology and criteria used in the research. B, explain the measures put in place by the Ministry of Health to implement the research findings and the subsequent recommendations. And C, outline any other measures put in place by the Ministry to bolster medical oxygen availability and affordability. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare concerning the fate of staff working at Huduma centers in Kenya, in Bungoma, as well as in other counties, and the policies guiding the deployment of staff serving therein. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the terms of engagement for staff deployed to serve citizens at Huduma centers countrywide. 2, elucidate on the deployment policy at the Bungoma Huduma Center, specifying the factors and criteria used for selecting staff for the relocation to other departments, especially after gaining relevant experience and training. 3, outline the measures in place to support staff affected by these deployments, particularly those who have financial commitments due to bank loans tied to their extraneous allowances. 4, table an audit report on the qualifications of the top management and the sub-county human resource personnel running the Bungoma Huduma Center. And 5, recommend measures to ensure orderly operations at the Huduma Center to enable the staff to serve citizens without fear of intimidation or threats from senior management. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries Committee regarding the shortage of suitable maize seed varieties for farmers in Bungoma County during current and ongoing planting season. In the statement, the committee should: A, provide a report on the current stock levels of the following varieties of hybrid maize seed available for use by farmers in Bungoma County: 624, 513, 614, 6213, 629, 516, and 520. B, state the measures put in place by the Kenya Seed Company to ensure that the above seed varieties, which are suitable for farmers in Bungoma, are made available and accessible to farmers, noting that the planting season has commenced. C, investigate and report to the Senate the cause of the shortage of suitable maize seed in the region, which is part of the country's food basket. And D, outline any other measures put in place by the ministry to make sure that such shortages that disrupt crop production are not experienced in future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Gloria Oroba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is my request for statement on the inadequate bed capacity at Mbagathi and Mama Lucy hospitals. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health concerning the inadequate bed capacity at Mbagathi County Referral and Mama Lucy hospitals. In the statement, the committee should: 1, outline the specific measures taken by the County Government of Nairobi and the Ministry of Health to address the chronic shortage of beds in hospitals, particularly in maternity wards at Mbagathi County Referral and Mama Lucy Hospital, where a significant number of mothers are compelled to share beds with as many as 3 or 4 individuals occupying a single bed. 2, they should provide an assessment of the current infrastructure and resource allocation at Mbagathi County Referral and Mama Lucy hospitals, including an analysis of the factors contributing to the inadequate bed capacity and the lack of sufficient seating arrangements for patients while they wait to secure beds. And finally, they should state the steps being taken to ensure the timely and effective implementation of measures to expand bed capacity and improve facilities, and to safeguard the health and dignity of patients, especially expectant mothers who rely on these healthcare institutions for essential care and support. Thank you.
Senator Chimera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources concerning the impending shutdown of the mining company, Base Titanium Limited in Kwale County. In the statement, the committee should, number 1, state any measures in place to address the imminent loss of employment for the more than 800 local and expatriate employees of Base Titanium Limited. Number 2, assess the projected impact of the company's closure on national revenue, specifically in terms of taxes and royalties, as well as the potential economic repercussions on local suppliers and the broader economy of Kwale County and propose mitigating strategies. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, examine the status of community projects and agreements initiated by based
zinatumika kwa njia nzuri. Pesa zinazokwenda katika mashinani zinatumika vile zinatakana zitumike. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi langu tu ombi ni kwamba hivi sasa tuwe na uhusiano mwema na wale wa budget controller aweze kutuletea hizo ripoti na hatua tuichukue mara moja. Asante Bwana Spika.
Thank you, honorable senators, for your interventions. Now, honorable senators, this is a very serious matter because it touches on the function and mandate of the Senate, more particularly the mandate of oversight. For honorable senators to offer effective oversight, they must be armed with information, and this information must be transmitted to the Senate in form of reports. If these reports are not forthcoming, then you don't have any information with which you can probe any malpractice. If I heard the majority leader correctly, there was an established practice that these reports were transmitted to the senators either quarterly or sometimes monthly. That practice has since stopped. Reasons nobody can explain. The only person who can explain why these reports have stopped flowing to the Senate is the controller budget. And therefore, pursuant to Standing Order 1, I direct that the controller budget appears before the House on Wednesday, the 27th, immediately after question time, to explain to the Senate, 1, why those reports ceased from flowing to the Senate, and 2, a commitment and undertaking that these reports, from the day she'll appear before you going forward, that they'll be transmitted to the Senate either monthly or quarterly, as demanded of the Office of the Controller Budget by the Constitution. The Office of the Clerk is also directed to facilitate the appearance of the Controller Budget on the 27th of March 2024. Now, honorable senators, I will give limited intervention to all the statements that have been made. We'll take half an hour for these interventions, starting with Senator Sifuna.
I thank you for that indulgence, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to make brief comments on the request for statement by Senator Gloria Orwoba on the bed capacity at Mama Lucy Hospital. Mr. Speaker, indeed, as part of my oversight work, I have visited all the level 5 county hospitals. And Mr. Speaker, the situation at Mama Lucy is quite dire. But I wanted to inform this House that we have gotten quite some serious support from the Committee on Health, very ably chaired by the Senator for Uasin Gishu, the Honorable Monda. Mr. Speaker, in fact, this committee has helped us so much to reach a resolution to expand the county's capacity to treat Nairobians by reaching an agreement with the national government to hand back Mama Margaret Kenyatta Hospital in Korogosho. Mr. Speaker, what is most disheartening is that when I visited Mama Lucy on the 1st of February, I was told that in fact the county has not made any follow-up on that directive by the Senate Committee on Health, and our facilities continue to be strained. At all these level 5 county facilities, Mr. Speaker, we have projects to expand capacity that have stalled. And in fact, for the Mama Lucy Hospital, there is a 344 million project that was initiated by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, Mr. Speaker, that stalled at 45%. The contractor is owed 50 million shillings, and therefore they have abandoned site. Mr. Speaker, the Health Committee of this House has been so gracious and supportive to Nairobi. They had actually scheduled a visit to these county facilities on Monday, the 11th of March, which is just a few days from today. And Mr. Speaker, the most heartbreaking thing is that On the eve of that visit, we received communication that somehow the county governor had made himself busy, and therefore that the committee was not welcome to tour the county facilities. I want to encourage the chairperson of the health committee that because of the problems we have in Nairobi, if you go to Mbagathi, there is a project that's stalled, the contractor abandoned site, he's owed 15 million shillings, Mr. Speaker. And when I complain about other uses of money, my colleagues have spoken about foreign travel, for instance. Nairobi is one of those counties, Mr. Speaker, that is leading in foreign travel expenses. And if you compare, Mr. Speaker, what is being used for foreign travel, or even just billboards in Nairobi, we spend 20 million shillings, Mr. Speaker, for billboards in Nairobi. Yet 15 million shillings is what is required to get back the contractor on site at Mbagathi. The situation is the same at Mutuini Hospital, Mr. Speaker, where the most ridiculous thing is happening. The Chair for Health, I wanted you to come and confirm that there is an X-ray machine at Mutuini Hospital, but it cannot be used by the people in Dagoretti South, Mr. Speaker, because we don't have doors to the room in which that X-ray machine is put. And Mr. Speaker, when you speak to the management of the hospital, they will tell you that between 500,000 shillings and 700,000 shillings would get us doors at Mutuini Hospital for the X-ray room, and we would stop sending people all the way to Mbagathi just to get X-rays. 500,000 shillings, Mr. Speaker, is the value of 2 billboards for 1 month in Nairobi. It is just plain ridiculous. I want to encourage the committee and the chair of the health committee, whether the governor is present or not, please come and visit these facilities and see for yourselves, so as even when you tackle Senator Gloria's inquiry, just come to these facilities. Let's not wait for the governor, because the governor is always going to find an excuse for you not to visit. I have more than enough capacity as a senator of Nairobi to host the health committee, Mr. Speaker. So I want to encourage them. Whatever the governor was going to give you in terms of accommodations, if he was going to give you traffic marshals to clear the roads, I can assure you the people of Nairobi will give you the necessary support so that you're able to visit all these facilities and see for yourself, so that you can help the people. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Monda.
For me to comment on the statement from Senator Sifuna of Nairobi and confirm to this House, Honorable Speaker, that on Monday next week, whether the governor will be present or not, we are going to visit those facilities, and we shall definitely follow up in the recommendations we had already made. And Honorable Speaker, I made a request to this House that it is extremely important that we reintroduce the Committee on Implementation, so that when reports and resolutions have been reached, they should actually be implemented. Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank the Majority Leader for raising that matter of reports, because these are the things the Senator for Nairobi would be able to check on the spending that is not priority and should be redirected towards service. Honorable Speaker, allow me to comment on the statement by Senator Cherargei on the issue of subsidized fertilizer, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in the North Rift, we are now in the planting season, and Honorable Speaker, as we speak today, farmers are having challenges because of the delays in the delivery of subsidized fertilizer, and the ministry's decision to deliver fertilizer to National Cereals and Produce Board. Particularly today, as we speak, Honorable Speaker, a lot of fertilizer is being delivered to Eldred National Cereals and Produce Board depot, creating a lot of traffic and unnecessary queues. Honorable Speaker, this statement is timely because we would like the ministry to ensure that these subsidized fertilizer are actually distributed to farmer store in the cooperatives. Honorable Speaker, one of the cooperatives, Progressive Cooperative from Moiben Sub-County, which carries about 8,000 farmers and require close to over 10,000 bags of fertilizer. As we speak today, Honorable Speaker, they have not received a single bag. We would like the ministry, therefore, to move with speed and ensure that the distribution of subsidized fertilizer, particularly for Uasin Gishu County, Trans Nzoia County, Bungoma County, Nandi County, who are now in the planting season, Honorable Speaker, is prioritized so that we can have food in this country. What the ministry needs to know is that any delay in distribution of fertilizer to these counties will result in reduced production. What most of the people in the logistics chain don't understand is maize as a crop is a crop that goes by the timelines and the days that is supposed to mature. And therefore, when there is delay, already then we shall be having reduced productivity. Honorable Speaker, we want to encourage the Cabinet Secretary to also address the issue of distribution of fertilizer where fertilizer has reached stores. This morning, Honorable Speaker, we had complaints from farmers from Kipkabos in Kaptagat Ward, where, Honorable Speaker, we had 4 lorries of fertilizer, but farmers had to wait the whole morning to this afternoon until a farmer complained and we intervened so that fertilizer can be distributed. The ministry should be able to check on the officers. These could be avenues where logistics officers are waiting to be bribed so that they can release fertilizer to a few farmers. We would want them to make it efficient and ensure small-scale farmers who are going to collect 1, 2, 3 bags, less than 10, are given their own queue so that they don't have to queue with large-scale farmers. Honorable Speaker, I support these statements. Thank you.
Senator Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the Senator for Turkana. Mr. Speaker, you know, recently we visited Turkana County and the different committees of this House went on different missions in the county to deal with the matters which had come before this House related to Turkana County. Mr. Speaker, the LAPSET project is a very major project running all the way from Lamu to South Sudan and eases transportation, Mr. Speaker, and it deals with a lot of challenges which deal with this transportation, Mr. Speaker, and at the same time electricity, generation in that particular area where there's a lot of wind and also the waves of Lake Turkana. Mr. Speaker, I'm told by the said Senator Lomenen that when the winds flow, the Lake Turkana is able to produce a lot of waves and you can easily tap electricity in that particular. In fact, he tells me one time, Mr. Speaker, he was on a flight in an helicopter and the wind was so much that the helicopter was stagnant. Meaning, Mr. Speaker, this wind is very powerful around that area and we can use it to support the generation of power and at the same time ease and transport and the security challenges, Mr. Speaker, on our connection to South Sudan, Ethiopia and many other places. Mr. Speaker, I support and suggest that it is a very, very important matter which I think the country has slowed on. And finally, on the air crash which happened recently by Senator Chimera, Mr. Speaker, that particular area and Wilson Airport is used for training young pilots. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, near that there is a main flight path of the international flights and many other smaller flights, Mr. Speaker, which go to different destinations in the country. And therefore, it is important that we synchronize the training and the normal flight paths, Mr. Speaker, and make the regulations very strict, Mr. Speaker, to avoid another accident of this nature happening. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kenywa.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Nataka kuchangia kuunga mkono taarifa iliyoletwa na Senator Cherargei kuhusu pembejeo ya bei nafuu. Bi Spika, ukweli ya mambo ni ya kwamba serikali kuu imejitolea kwamba wakulima waweze kupata pembejeo ya bei nafuu. Bwana Spika, lakini si kupata tu, lakini inapaswa ipelekwe mpaka mahali wakulima wako, Bwana Spika, pale vijijini, Bwana Spika. Kwa sababu Bi Spika, kwa sababu ukiangalia Bi Spika, mahali ambapo pembejeo hii inaletwa inapelekwa mijini, Bwana Bi Spika, na wakulima wengi hawayuko mijini. Ukitembea kama Laikipia unapata ile pembejeo haifikishwi mashinani kabisa. Ipelekwe Sipili mahali wakulima wako, Bi Spika. Ipelekwe mahali kunaitwa Salama. Ipelekwe Matanya mahali wakulima wako, lakini si kupelekwa mijini mahali ambapo wakifikisha mijini wanasema pembejeo imefikishwa kwa wakulima. Bi Spika, unaona ni kinaya kwa sababu tunaongea kuhusu pembejeo. Lakini nimetaarifa na unga mkono taarifa ya Senator Wakoli kutoka Bungoma. Kwa sababu hata pembejeo hii ikija na msimu huu ni msimu wa mvua. Na unasikia kwamba Senator anasema ya kwamba hakuna mahindi ya kupanda. Ni vizuri tuwe na mbegu na anataka kuunga mkono kwa sababu msimu huu ni msimu wa kupanda. Wakulima wanahitaji mbegu na mbegu ambazo ni mbegu ambazo zimefanyiwa utafiti, mbegu ambazo ni bei nzuri, ambazo mazao yake yataweza kuleta mavuno ambayo wananchi wa Kenya watafurahia. Speaker, kwa sababu serikali imesema vizuri majukumu yake makubwa, na hasa serikali imejitolea ikasema itaweza kupunguza gharama ya maisha, na bei ya maisha itapunguzwa tu ijapo tutapata mbegu ambazo zimekubalika, mbegu ambazo zimefanyiwa utafiti kisayansi, na zile ambazo zitaleta mavuno ambayo itaweza kukubalika. Speaker, naunga mkono na nashukuru kwa kunipa fursa hiyo. Asante Speaker.
Senator Beth Singo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance. Madam Speaker, allow me to comment on the statement raised by Senator Ezena Lemetian on the environment. Madam Speaker, it is embarrassing to see that we are living in Kenya where we are supposed to take responsibilities as Kenyans to ensure that we live in clean environment. It is disheartening to see that our surroundings are not kept. Dumping of dirty and dirt is all over surrounding us. And we know as Kenyans that we expect to live in clean environment, and this will encourage also no spread of diseases. Madam Speaker, in the month of December, we went to another country where we had gone for games. And I was really challenged to see how Rwanda is clean. And I wondered, what went wrong in Kenya that we cannot live in such a clean environment? Madam Speaker, I would support this statement to say we really need policies that will ensure that environment is kept clean, and those who are charged with the responsibilities of ensuring that cleaning is done, then it is done properly. Madam Speaker, I feel to encourage this House, as we are now talking about climate change, to ensure that we are not only concentrating on planting trees and other activities that are done talking of climate change, but we also ensure that our surroundings, our environment is clean. Madam Speaker, looking at the disposal of wastes from our estates, from our homes, it is discouraging to find that people can dump waste anywhere and all over. We need to develop a culture of cleanliness. They say cleanliness is next to godliness. Kenyan country is a godly country, and I know majority of us are Christians. Why can't we develop that culture right from our families, in schools, in towns, in estates, to ensure waste disposal is properly managed and we live in clean environment? It is important that we have proper means and ways of managing our waste. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the statement. Secondly, allow me, Madam Speaker, also to touch on the statement raised by Senator Gloria Oroba. Madam Speaker, the hospitals within Nairobi County are the hospitals that do not only carry the burden and attend to the residents of Nairobi. People from rural areas also come to these facilities. Mama Lucy, Mbagathi, and many other hospitals within the city. Madam Speaker, it is important that the bed capacity, the facilities, the nurses, the doctors are taken care of. And the county of Nairobi, the county government of Nairobi ensures that the facilities are kept well to serve not only Nairobi residents, but also those who are referred and others come from upcountry to seek medical attention in Nairobi County. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the statements.
Thank you. Senator David Wakoli, Wafula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity. I want to weigh in on the matter of subsidized fertilizer. Several weeks ago, Honorable Speaker, the Agriculture Committee was doing its work on the public participation tours in the western part of the Republic. To our surprise, Honorable Speaker, we made a surprise visit to Bungoma NCPB, where we bumped into only 9 bags of fertilizer for planting, Honorable Speaker. And this is after the residents of Bungoma were up in arms in Bungoma town, in Webuye, in Kimaiti, and all the other distribution centers, complaining of the lack of enough fertilizer for planting. A call was made to the MD, who assured the people of Bungoma that in 1 or 2 weeks' time, we'll have 40,000 bags, and at the end of the month, we'll have over 100 bags of planting fertilizer. To date, Honorable Speaker, is still a story of the fairy tale. Time is up for these people to either pull up their socks or to ship out. We cannot afford to go back to the days of people marching on the streets with tools and equipment for cooking, purportedly seeking for rain to come down and shower crops. Honorable Speaker, the matter of quality seeds in Kenya Seed Company. There is a shortage of seed, quality seed in particular, and I will not be surprised, Honorable Speaker, if we do a thorough audit of this infrastructure, we'll be surprised to find that there is a problem that needs to be solved. And I want to request government and the committee in charge to swiftly move with speed to ascertain these uncertainties and give direction to Kenyans, and in particular, my great people of Bungoma and Trans Nzoia. Honorable Speaker, something else that is cropping up, which has been mentioned through the Huduma Center in Bungoma. Several weeks ago, staffs of the Huduma Center were reshuffled, transferred, without recognizing the fact that they have commitment, financial commitment, family commitments that need proper adjustment. The same thing was seen the other day when I raised a matter on this floor as pertaining to railways, where a people of a particular ethnic orientation have been frustrated, intimidated, harassed, and their tools of operation in their offices confiscated by the DCI purportedly.
Honorable Senator, let me guide you. I do not think you can debate on the statements that you brought to the floor.
I'm contributing, Honorable
You
Speaker.
can contribute to other statements brought by other senators to the floor of the House.
Thank you,
Please
Speaker.
be guided and comment accordingly.
Finally, on the matter of prudent, as elaborated, the matter of health, as my good friend Sifuna has said, it is important that the committee moves with speed and the financial statements, as requested by Senator Lekina, to be facilitated to senators. This will ensure that we do our work appropriately. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Oburu Oginga.
Thank you, Madam, for the opportunity to contribute. Madam, I want to make the contribution on the statement sought by my brother here, the Senator for Turkana County, and this is on the rural electrification, REREC. He has sought a statement from REREC asking them to activate electrification programs, rural electrification programs in Turkana. Madam Speaker, people don't think of Turkana as a great potential, as having a great potential for development. And when you bring electricity, Madam, this is a very big trigger for development in Turkana. Turkana is a very, very rich country. When you go there, some people just look at the heat. But Madam Speaker, apart from the heat, there is a lot of wealth underground. There is wealth of oil. There is wealth of water. There is a whole lake underground in Turkana, Madam Speaker. And I hope that this statement, which is seeking for the rural electrification, they used to be much more active than the Kenya Power themselves. But I want them to wake up and impress us by taking steps to activate the REREC. This is now a new one called Rural Electrification and REREC. They should take up steps to activate the electrification in Turkana. Madam Speaker, electrification is such an important venture that in my county, my own county, Siaya, I was perplexed, Madam Speaker, yesterday when I went to the rural area, and I found a whole industry for milling of rice, which has been put up by the county, is not able to be commissioned, Madam Speaker, just because of upgrading electricity to three-phase. Because without electricity, Madam, actually there is no development, there is no meaningful development. So, Madam Speaker, I don't want to take a lot of time. I've just stood up to support the statement sought by my brother, Senator for Turkana, on REREC. And, Madam Speaker, I hope that steps will be taken to activate these activities in Turkana County. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Karungo Thangwapol.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to support the statement by Senator Orwoba about health issues, and especially in our hospitals. In the county of Nairobi, not forgetting my home county, that is Kiambu County, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, health is the most basic yet very fundamental and important thing a human being would require to have the best of, Madam Speaker. And sometimes I ask myself, the drafters of the Constitution, whether they did the right thing to surrender these hospitals to the governors, Madam Speaker. Because sometimes I ask myself, if they could not trust the governors with our education, because you see the governors, they don't have, it's not a function of county government when it comes to primary, high school, and even universities. They could trust the governors with our health, Madam Speaker. And that is something that we need to rethink, because health, first of all, is universal, and health is one of the most important things that we need to look into as a country. And I want to thank the Committee on Health, Madam Speaker, because we have taken some statements to them. They have embarked on visiting counties to see what the state of the hospitals in various counties, Madam Speaker. I know I have a statement with the Health Committee on the issue of health insurance for the employees of Kiambu County Government, and they were supposed to visit Kiambu County last week, but the committee postponed that due to reasons that I understand very well. So, Madam Speaker, I believe standing committees are the committees that are going to assist this Senate to do its oversight mandate. Because as I always say, the committee, CPIC and CIPA committees are mere morticians, Madam Speaker, because they only check what the Auditor General has said. If the Auditor General says this county had no fault at all, we will do nothing as those committees, Madam Speaker. But if we take our job seriously as the standing committees, and we visit our counties as the other committees have been visiting different counties, we are going to find that county governors and county governments are not doing what they're supposed to do, and we rectify and we take the necessary precaution. Instead of waiting for them to break the law, then we wait for the Auditor General, then the Auditor General to do a report to CPIC and CIPAC, and then we'll be looking at these reports a year later, 2 years later. Like now, we are looking into the issues that the previous governors, the crime or the mistakes the previous governors had committed, they're being now answered by this committee, by the current governors, Madam Speaker. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, and I'm saying that because I know these committees, Health Committee, Agriculture Committee, and other committees, Madam Speaker, without mentioning my committee, which is Roads Transportation, if we are keen on protecting devolution, let's visit the counties. Next week, let's have the Environment Committee in Kiambu to check out why Kiambu is going to miss on FLOCA, the money for climate change, about over 110 million, Madam Speaker, just because, Madam Speaker, the governor there is refusing to comply. Madam Speaker, let's have the Agriculture Committee to go to Kiambu County and check the distribution of fertilizer, the chicks, and everything, Madam Speaker. Let's have the Energy Committee visit Kiambu, Madam Speaker, to check why the county government has refused the installation of street lights, Madam Speaker. Let's have the Education Committee, Madam Speaker, visit Kiambu and check how many ECDs that have been built in that county, Madam Speaker, because I believe we're being lied to, Madam Speaker. Let's have the Finance Committee of this Senate visit Kiambu, Madam Speaker, and other counties to find out why the county government has refused to pay pending bills worth 5.7 billion. Also to find why the county that has projected to collect 7 billion as own source revenue has only collected 1.6 billion, Madam Speaker. Let's have the Labour Committee visit Kiambu, Madam Speaker, and see why the promotion of employees in the county has been put on hold until 2026, Madam Speaker. Let the Land Committee, Madam Speaker, visit Kiambu County and find out why the people of Odheriwa Lari have not been given their land, yet they paid for that land, Madam Speaker. What I'm trying to say is, it is a high time we as the Senate, the Standing Committee, we redeem ourselves and we go to the counties, we meet the governors face to face and tell them they are doing injustice to the devolution that we have fought for, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Senator James Lomenen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to support a statement by Senator Cherengei. Madam Speaker, as we supply subsidies, fertilizer subsidies to farmers, we should also remember that there are areas of North Rift or northern part of Kenya. We also need animal feeds. And these animal feeds helps actually, Madam Speaker, to improve the DGP of the nation. It is injustice, Madam Speaker, to farmers in other areas to enjoy fertilizer subsidies, yet farmers, livestock traders, livestock others, or livestock owners in northern part of Kenya do not enjoy the animal feeds. So as we think of farmers, of fertilizer, we should also think of animals feeds in northern part of Kenya. Madam Speaker, I support with that restriction.
Senator Madago, you want to inform Senator for Turkana. You should use your machine, your equipment. I do not have any request.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wanted to inform the Senator for Turkana that the government
Does
through
he
the
want
national...
to be informed? Senator for Turkana, would you wish to be informed by Senator Madago? Okay, he allows you to.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to inform the Senator for Turkana that through the National Drought Management Authority, the national government has actually been supporting livestock farmers through the offtake of livestock, particularly during the dry periods, and supply of feeds, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would only urge the Senator for Turkana to ask for supply of grass seeds so that grass can be planted during rainy seasons in the northern parts of Kenya. And we want to support the Senator for Samburu because they lost over 7 kilometers of pasture through fires which we believe they should also be compensated so that livestock farmers can also continue benefiting from government. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also wanted to support the statement by Senator Ole Kina on the budget making and utilization in several counties, including Mombasa, my own county. Madam Speaker, it is true that the performance of Mombasa County in terms of budget implementation has not been up to standard in the current administration. For instance, Madam Speaker, in the year 2022-2023, we failed to meet our target on on-source revenue by about 1.2 billion shillings. Madam Speaker, this will have a bearing. It will have a bearing on the projects that the government has had put in place to implement in the financial year 2022-2023. Number two, there are also high levels of pending bills. At the moment, the pending bills stand at 3.92 billion shillings as of 31st December 2023. Madam Speaker, this is against the fact that there was available a sum of 2.91 billion available in the county revenue fund, which was supposed to be used to offset some of those pending bills. Madam Speaker, these pending bills are worsening and they'll have a bearing on the future financial performance of a county of Mombasa. Number three, Madam Speaker, youth and empowerment programs that are supposed to be undertaken in the county. Madam Speaker, Mombasa being the port city, at the moment you have the largest youth unemployment. If you look at the report by the Control of Budget, it places the youth unemployment at 44%. Roughly 4 out of every 10 youths are jobless at the moment, Madam Speaker. However, our county government has not undertaken any projects, Madam Speaker, that will be geared towards reduction of this youth unemployment. And this will have a bearing also, Madam Speaker, on budget absorption and also development in the county of Mombasa. So, Madam Speaker, finally, there was the issue of diversion of funds in the county treasury and weak budgeting practice. Madam Speaker, this one also will have a bearing. And at the moment, Madam Speaker, as we speak, the county government of Mombasa does not have a financial act for the year 2024 or 2025. So, Madam Speaker, I fully support the statement by Senator Lekina, and I will urge the Finance Committee, of which I'm a member, to quickly deal with these issues so that we can arrest any future bottlenecks that will arise as a result of this failure by these counties that are mentioned in this statement. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Uroba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to support the statement by Senator Wakoli on Huduma centers, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as the committee is going to be responding to the issues, particularly about the staff members and how they are being deployed, their contracts and all those details, Madam Speaker, I think I want to add my voice in terms of the Huduma centers. We were informed that we are going to get more Huduma centers, and actually the clarion call was that the Huduma centers would be devolved to an extent that we would have every Kenyan down in the remote areas being able to access a Huduma center without having to travel for long distances, Madam Speaker. As the committee tackles this issue, Madam Speaker, I would also want to request that if they can get information on the plans of devolving Huduma centers, Madam Speaker. I come from Bobasi constituency in Kisii County. It is a very, very huge constituency, Madam Speaker, with 8 wards. And we have Kenyans from as far as Nyacheki ward who cannot or do not have the capacity to access the Huduma center on the other side of town, Madam Speaker. So it would be imperative that we are informed, if at all there are any plans to devolve and make sure that Huduma centers go down to at least having 1 Huduma center on each ward, then so that we can be able to know that all Kenyans are getting the services that they require from Huduma centers. Madam Speaker, I would also want to request that the committee looks into how they can collaborate with NYS as a human resource capacity to partner with Huduma centers, Madam Speaker. We have a lot of youth who are under NYS. They have been trained on various capacity, and I think that there is an opportunity there for them to being able to assist in some of the duties that we have in Huduma Center, Madam Speaker. As I speak, as I said, I'm from Bobasi constituency, and we have many youths that have been recruited from my constituency, and they would really serve in great capacity in these Huduma centers if we were able to make sure that we bring it down to the ward level. I therefore support the statement on the deployment of policy and staff serving at Huduma centers by the Senator for Bungoma, Senator Wakoli. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Eddie Okech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise actually to support a very, very important statement by my brother, Senator Cherargei Samson of Nandi, on the distribution of subsidized fertilizers to farmers in North Rift and other parts of the country. And it's very important that my brother has put that other parts of the country, because I don't think that this is a problem that is only in North Rift, and the entire country is suffering, Madam Speaker. If you remember last year, Madam Speaker, one of the reasons why the government really suffered last year was because of drought. And that drought also meant that the economy was impacted because we're not very sure about the harvest that we'll have last year. And the issue of subsidized fertilizer, Madam Speaker, is an issue that came very prominently at the beginning of last year. And Madam Speaker, I dare say that because we had some rain last year, Madam Speaker, we reached to a point whereby that, the fact that drought went a little bit low last year, and the fact that the money market opened a little bit, the economy was able to regain some sense of normalcy. But Madam Speaker, where we are going right now, where it is so late in the year in terms of planting season, and farmers have not received this subsidized fertilizer, Madam Speaker. I was in Narok 2 weeks ago, when I think about 3 weeks ago, we were together with the minority deputy whip, as well as the minority whip, Madam Speaker. And the people in Narok were really crying that they are getting fertilizer, Madam Speaker, I'll quote this. They were saying they are getting fertilizer kama machozi. Ni kidogo sana. So, Madam Speaker, this is an issue that if it's not addressed, it has got a serious effect in the economy, because it could actually take the economy back to where we were last year. If we don't get subsidies on time, and if we don't get this fertilizer on time, Madam Speaker, a place like Migori, where I come from, farmers have never seen anything like this, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I think that this issue is not only about getting this subsidized fertilizer. We must go to the core of business. And the core of business, Madam Speaker, is the people who are supplying this fertilizer. We need to know what are the ship lines for this fertilizer, Madam Speaker, that are supplying, that were given this contract to bring in the country. Which are these companies, Madam Speaker, that were given the tenders to be able to bring this fertilizer? And they must explain to us whether they actually really understand the scope of the farmers they need to supply. How many farmers were being targeted by this shipment? And if we cannot know the number of farmers, at least which regions were they certain that were going to give? Because if you talk about somewhere like North Rift, Madam Speaker, North Rift is where the serious backbone of leadership of this country comes from. Cherargei himself is a very serious member of this parliament and a ranking member of this house. And Madam Speaker, you know that the North Rift is also where our president, our dear president, who have got nothing against Madam Speaker, but you know very well that, Madam Speaker, if you look at a place like Eldoret, you know, people right now are queuing in Eldoret. I saw it the other day, Cherargei, when people are queuing for fertilizer up to evening, and then, you know, 60% of the people are queuing there don't even get fertilizer. So, Madam Speaker, you can imagine if where Cherargei comes from, where the majority leader of this house comes from, where the president of this country comes from, people are queuing for fertilizer and they cannot get fertilizer. Just imagine somewhere like Nyatike, where I come from, Madam Speaker. Nyatike does not even have proper roads to begin with. If you go to Masangora in Kuria, it is at the far end of Migori County, Madam Speaker. If you go to a place like, you know, in Rongo, where farmers really are passionate about doing agriculture and they're dedicated to do agriculture, Madam Speaker, imagine if there's no fertilizer in a place like Eldoret. How are they supposed to get this fertilizer, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, you remember last year, we did go to Turkana, where we spent time as a house in Senate Mashinani, and we went to a place like Katilu, irrigation scheme. And even there, Madam Speaker, you would realize that the distribution of fertilizer was only going to a place like Lokicha and somewhere like in Lodwa, but Mashinani areas like Katilu, the fertilizer was not getting to those places. So this is something that I hope that we can have a bipartisan approach, and I hope that this won't be just one of those statements where Senator Cherargei is serviced with a response from the ministry. I think that the responsible minister or the CS must appear before the relevant committee, and I want to wish the courage, you know, some of the senators in this house, like the majority leader, to actually go there and to make sure that this minister can be put to task to be able to answer to the fact that farmers are not getting this fertilizer. And as I finish, Madam Speaker, I've always held the view that when we think about subsidy for farm inputs, it must not stop only on fertilizer, because Cherargei will not eat only ugali without some meat or ugali without some fish. Madam Speaker, Cherargei loves meat so much. And therefore, when it's the subsidy for crops in this country, Madam Speaker, there also need to be subsidy for animal feeds for people in Nyatike, animal feeds for people in Kuria, animal feeds for people in Narok, as well as people who are growing fish in Lake Victoria. We need to start having to see the government also subsidizing animal feeds to make sure that agriculture is subsidized in totality to make production a real production and not a pseudo production that we are seeing here. And I hope that when they start subsidizing animal feeds, Madam Speaker, there will be more transparency in terms of who are the suppliers, who are the contractors, and what are the shipments that are bringing this thing in the country. And therefore, Madam Speaker, it's a very important statement, and I support, and I hope that we'll follow it to fruition. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Senators, we have finished with time that we had allocated for statements. I have two more senators remaining. Maybe I'll give you 2 minutes each so that we close that session. Senator Cherargei and Senator Julius Mulgo. Just 2 minutes each. No, let's have Senator Cherargei first, so Senator Mulgo, resume your seat.
My apologies. Mr. Speaker, this statement could not go on because as the Vice Chair of the Senate County Public Accounts Committee, I thought it is important that I support the statement by Senator Ledama Olekina. I think this is where the meat is, Madam Speaker. And I want to challenge that we should go beyond these counties that have been mentioned. The issue of supplementary budgets and approval, Madam Speaker, there have been instances where the controller of budget is approving some of the items, Madam Speaker, that cannot be seen. When you look at the payment vouchers, the requisition from the counties, Madam Speaker, it is nowadays like a love letter by county governors, Madam Speaker. They just write, we want requisition of 100 million. Then if the controller of budget asks what is the itemized issues that you need, they just get the names, Madam Speaker, and that is why we're having a problem of pending bills, Madam Speaker. That is why we're having challenge, Madam Speaker, and therefore, I want to challenge the Office of the Controller of Budget to be very vigilant, especially when they are giving requisitions, Madam Speaker. We are aware that there are some officers within COB who are seeing each other with governors behind the tent, Madam Speaker. It is my clarion call that a governor walks in, write a requisition, when they are time to release the funds, some of the officers within COB demand a certain percentage. And that is why lifestyle audit of some of the controller of budget officers, Madam Speaker, they should be done lifestyle audit. A number of them have been migrating to Karen, Runda, Kileleshwa, among other high-end estates, and also having unexplained wealth, Madam Speaker. So even now that governors have realized it is easy, get an approved supplementary budget, Madam Speaker, or a budget that has been approved by the County Assembly, Madam Speaker, then we need that action to be taken so that, and I look forward that this should be committee of the whole, and all 47 counties should be included. I support, Madam.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Murgo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also join my colleagues in airing my views about the subsidy of fertilizer. It is common knowledge, Madam Speaker, that there is plenty of food now in Kenya because of the subsidized fertilizer that we received last year. And so with that plentifulness, there is a lot of joy and happiness in the nation about availability of food, unlike what it was in the other previous years that some of the marginalized areas faced a lot of starvation from now and then. And at this point, that in those areas now, February, March, April, there would be shortage of food, and therefore that subsidized fertilizer did wonders last year. And therefore, it is causing a lot of anxiety now that it is either not there or it is little, because the lines that people make just proves that it is not available. And therefore, the minister concerned should really be made aware by the system so that he makes the commodity available. I support.
Thank you, Senator. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the 2024 medium-term debt management strategy.
Senator Mohamed Faki.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Budget on the 2024 medium-term debt management strategy, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 7th of March, 2024. Madam Speaker, the 2024 medium-term debt management strategy, MTDS, was submitted to Parliament by the National Treasury and Economic Planning on 15th of February, 2024, pursuant to Section 33 of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 412A. The Act provides that on or before the 15th of February in each year, the Cabinet Secretary shall submit to Parliament a statement setting out the debt management strategy of the national government over the medium term with respect to its actual liability and potential liability in respect of loans and guarantees, and its plans of dealing BPS, which the Senate approved last week. Section 33, subsection 3 of the same Act provides that the Cabinet Secretary shall include in the statement the following information. A, the total stock of debt as at the date of the statement. B, the sources of loans made to the national government and the nature of guarantees given by the national government. C, the principal risks associated with those loans and guarantees. D, assumptions, the assumptions underlying the debt management strategies. And E, an analysis of the sustainability of the amount of debt, both actual and potential. Madam Speaker, the 2024 MTDS outlines the strategies and initiatives to be implemented with the goal of minimizing debt management costs, risks, and it covers the period from financial year 2024-25 and 2026-2027. Madam Speaker, at the end of June 2023, the nominal amount of publicly guaranteed debt was Kenya shilling 10,278 billion, or 70.8% of GDP. This comprised of an external debt stock of Kenya shillings 5.44 trillion and a domestic debt stock of Kenya shillings 4.832 trillion. According to the National Treasury, the total nominal stock of public and publicly guaranteed debt as at February 2024 was Kenya shillings 11.248 trillion, or 69.7% of GDP. Present value of public debt to GDP is 67.2%. This comprises of external debt stock of Kenya shillings 6.189 trillion and a domestic debt stock of Kenya shillings 5.058 trillion. The National Treasury committed to bringing down the present value of debt as a percentage of GDP from 67.2% to 55% over a period of 5 years in accordance with the requirements of Section 50 of the Public Finance Management Act, PFM Act. Madam Speaker, the foreign public debt is composed of multilateral, bilateral, and commercial creditors, categorized as follows. A, Kenya shillings 3.118 trillion has multilateral debts, accounting for 50% of the total external debt. B, Kenya shillings 1.399 trillion bilateral debts at 23%. And C, Kenya shillings 1.671 trillion commercial debts at 27%, of which Eurobonds account for 1.14 trillion, or 18%. Domestic debt mainly comprises of treasury bonds and bills. A, Kenya shilling 4.272 trillion in treasury bonds, amounting to 85% of the total domestic debt. And B, Kenya shillings 565.63 billion treasury bills, accounting for 11%. And Kenya shillings 220.16 billion, or 4% of others. These are overdrafts from Central Bank of Kenya, IMF special drawing rights, SDR, and allocation and bank advances that are due. Madam Speaker, at the end of June 2023, the government guaranteed debt to Kenya Power and Lighting Company, KPLC, Kenya Ports Authority, KPA, Kenya Electricity Generating Company, KenGen, and Kenya Airways, amounted to Kenya shillings 170.2 billion. The called up guaranteed loan of 82 billion relates to KQ, that is Kenya Airways guaranteed debt. Madam Speaker, the fiscal deficit for the year 2024-2025 is approved under the 2024 BPS is Kenya shilling 703 billion. Madam Speaker, this might come down as a result of the strengthening of the Kenya shilling. MTDS proposes that this deficit will be funded by both foreign and domestic borrowing. The net foreign financing will be Kenya shillings 362.12 billion, while domestic financing will be Kenya shillings 377.75 billion. Madam Speaker, In terms of optimal borrowing approach or strategy, the MTDS seeks to minimize costs and refinancing risks in the debt portfolio by maximizing access to external concessional borrowing. Over the medium term, the optimal borrowing strategy assumes a mix of 45% domestic and a 55% external financing. Madam Speaker, the National Treasury submitted that the total debt sustainability analysis, DSA, conducted in December 2023 indicates that Kenya's public debt remains sustainable, although there is a risk of debt distress. It is anticipated that the PV of debt to GDP, present value of debt to GDP ratio will remain above the approved threshold of 55% until the year 2029 or final consolidation. Madam Speaker, further scrutiny of the external debt sustainability analysis indicates that throughout the forecast period, the present value of public debt and publicly guaranteed external debt to GDP ratio remains below the 40% threshold. Madam Speaker, PV of PPG external debt to export solvency indicator remains above 180% threshold through 2029. The debt service to exports liquidity indicator surpasses its 15% threshold due to the repayment of Eurobonds in 2024 and in 2028, as well as the rollover of external bank loans in 2025 and 2026. The breaches in debt thresholds in terms of exports indicate increased vulnerability of public debt to export and financing shocks. It is clear from the cost and risk analysis of the current public debt portfolio that a depreciation of Kenya shilling against major currency increased the nominal debt to GDP ratio to 70.8% in June 2023 from 67% in December 2022. B, the total interest payments as a share of GDP increased to 5.5% as at June 2023 from 5.3% as at December 2022. Number C, the weighted average interest rate of external debt increased to 4.5% in June 2023 compared to 3.9% in December 2022. The average time to maturity of the total portfolio declined from 8.8 years in December 2022 to 8.5 years in June 2023. The projected debt redemption profile is characterized by large maturities in 2028, 2029, and 2030 on account of Eurobond and bank syndicated debts. Madam Speaker, noteworthy findings made by the committee include that the stock of public and publicly guaranteed debt is Kenya shillings 11.248 trillion, comprising of a domestic debt of 5.058 trillion, 45%, and an external debt of Kenya shillings 6.89 trillion, being 55%. This is an increase of Kenya shillings 970 billion from the Kenya shillings 10 trillion 278 by the end of the year 2022-2023, and is attributed to the exchange rate movements and additional borrowing, among other factors. The present value of debt to GDP stands at 67.2% against the recommended benchmark of 55% as provided for in Section 50 of the PFM Act. Whereas this is a breach against the benchmark, the National Treasury projects that the present value of debt will be aligned with the benchmark by financial year 2028-2029 through the defined fiscal consolidation path. This, however, requires regular reporting to Parliament to enhance continuous oversight and ensure compliance. Number C, although the debt carrying capacity declined from strong in 2021 to medium as at December 2023, the National Treasury indicates that the overall debt levels remain sustainable. The risk of debt distress is high due to global shocks that can potentially exacerbate macroeconomic vulnerabilities and subdue economic performance. D, the